Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
It's my friend is a science.
I still don't have gifts, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome, glad to have you here. Oh look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure?
It's cultist coffee.
What makes it cultist coffee? I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it. Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Uh-oh. I'm still feeling a little sick, and I hear it in my voice right now. We'll try that again. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the office. Welcome to my home. I'm Heath, and I'll be your host for the morning grind today. There, hold on. Had to take some medication yesterday. Guess I'm going to have to take some again today. Can't be sick. There are things to do. Good morning. Let's see. Good morning, James. Good to see you. Stefan, good morning. Good to see you. Good morning, Spitz. Good morning, Lynn. And good morning, PH. We got the whole crew here. Good morning, Zero the Blade. Good morning, and Sable. Yes. Good morning. Let's see. Today we are going to be talking about the new book, So You Want to Be a Game Master. And wait, I got the book right here. I got the physical copy. I've got an electronic copy, an alpha copy of an electronic copy, so I'll be able to bring it up on the screen. This is a giant tome on how to be a game master by Justin Alexander. You probably know him from the Alexandrian blog and then also here on YouTube. this book is about to be released, or it might be released right now. We were going to have an interview about right the time it's going to be released. So I was sent this preview copy and also the digital copy we've got, and we're going to be taking a look at it here today and on the morning grind, and then also taking some notes. To get some notes ready as well. Notes about things about the book or other things that we would like to talk to Justin about tonight. So that's what we are doing today. That is our main topic for today. So glad to have everybody. Hey, Stray. Hey, Stray. Strange characters checking in. All of us strange characters. Good morning, BGD. Good morning. Good morning. Let's see. Hey, Inner Light. Good morning. By other drinking vessel. Yeah, a friend made this for. I used to drink out of it when I was in the SCA. Yeah, it's a friend of mine's pottery. And here he is. Here he is, right here. So wonderful. I want to bring up the YouTube channel as well over here. So we're going to take a look at this. So let me bring up, let me share the screen right over here. Tonight's show, right here. Tonight's show will be over here, 9 hours, 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Nope, I didn't actually press this up here. So, all right, so here we got it. Tonight's show, 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time tonight. This is where it'll be over on the Table Talk channel. So let me put the Table Talk show tonight. Please click over there. Click Notify Me. And come and be a part of the show. So that'll happen at 7 o'clock p.m. tonight. So that's on the new Table Talk channel. That'll be its permanent home. If you're not over there and subscribed, please do come over here and subscribe. Hey, good morning, Phaser Wrist. Good morning. Good morning. Good to see you. Phaser Wrist 10 watching, no likes. Oh, please do hit the like button so that we can get this out to more people who are subscribed, but who not be sitting here on YouTube right now, but who are just not being shown the stream because of the algorithms. There might be other people who want to be here. So please do hit the like so that YouTube knows to push it out to everybody else on who is subscribed. Sable says the Alexandrian is the best Titterpig blog. So, all right. So that's happening tonight. Let's see over here. Well, let's see here. The Cultists. Brianna and I were working on the Cultists a lot yesterday. We actually didn't get to work on some of the Table Talk clips as much as I would have liked. I prepped all the live shows. Didn't quite get to clips because Brianna and I were hammering on the Cultists. The Cultist has a defined ending. We had the first three episodes of the first season up there, but we made a call that we decided to revise the audio. So we don't want to ever touch this again. You know, once they are uploaded this time, all of the shows for the Cultists is, of course, my Lovecraftian comedy show, web show about a modern day Lovecraftian cultist who just want to worship Cthulhu in a world full of people who don't understand. And we just hit 1,000 subscribers over there. But I did take back down the first 3 episodes, and I'm about to re-upload them because we did one last audio revision. Because some people had said that it was a little bit soft, especially that first season. So I went and did another audio correction, and I'm going to put them back up here very soon. And then we're going to do the whole relaunch on this channel, see where we can go with it. And at least that way we know there's no problem. Because we're like, if there's a problem, I let Brianna make that call too. If there was any kind of problem, we need to fix it right then. Because we don't want to touch it again. So that's what's going on over here. Let's see. I love the earthenware. Earthworm Jim is also great. Phaser Risk says, Heath, you should also check out the Untold Encounters of the Random Kind. It's a huge book with RPG encounters that also works great for writers. Oh, let me make note of that. Untold Encounters of the Random Kind. All right, got it. And then, of course, if you are over here on YouTube, here is the Alexandrian Justin on YouTube right here. So I am going to put the link right here. The Alexandrian on YouTube. So if you're not subscribed, go over to the Alexandrian. Please subscribe over there. And you may, if you haven't watched some of his videos, watch some of his videos before tonight's interview. The Alexandrian, yeah. Oh, yeah, we use this. We use this quite a bit. Sable Phoenix says, at the Alexandrian, your monster manual on a business card is utter genius. One of the most immediately useful 5e tools that I have ever found out there. Yeah, we were using that when we were working on 5e stuff over here on this channel and this live stream, like the Rabavania stuff. Yes, the monster manual and business card is fantastic. And then please do come by the Ravenkeep Discord server as well. All right, let me bring this down. Let's do our daily reading before we move on to our main topic today. Let me pull up The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. I wish my voice wasn't so scratchy. Okay, so let me bring this up. Our daily reading is from The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. It's about overcoming resistance. Resistance is everything that prevents us from being everything that we can possibly be in life. So let's see. Invoking the Muse, Part 3. Accidentally went backwards when I changed the size. The Magic of Keeping Going. Largo. Okay. The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. Largo. In my 20s, I drove tractor trailers for a company called Burton Lines in Durham, North Carolina. I wasn't very good at it. My self-destruction demons had me. Only blind luck kept me from killing myself and other poor suckers who happened to be on the highway at the same time. It was a tough period. I was broke, estranged from my wife and my family. One night I had this dream. I was part of the crew of an aircraft carrier. Only the ship was stuck on dry land. It was still launching its jets and doing its thing, but it was marooned half a mile from the ocean. The sailors all knew how screwed up the situation was. They felt it was as a keen and constant distress. The only bright spot was there was a Marine gunnery sergeant on board named Largo. In the dream, it seemed like the coolest name anybody could possibly have. Largo. I loved it. Largo was one of those hardcore senior non-coms like the Burt Lancaster character, Warden, in From Here to Eternity. The one guy on the ship who knows exactly what's going on. The tough old sage who makes all the decisions and actually runs the show. But where was Largo? I was standing miserably by the rail when the captain came over and started talking to me. Even he was lost. It was his ship, but he didn't know how to get it off dry land. I was nervous, finding myself in conversation with the brass, and couldn't think of a thing to say. The skipper didn't seem to notice. He just turned to me casually and said, What the hell are we going to do, Largo? I woke up electrified. I was Largo. I was the salty old gunny. The power to take charge was in my hands, and all I had to do was believe it. Where did this dream come from? Plainly, its intent was benevolent. What was its source? And what does it say about the workings of the universe where such things happen at all? Again, we've all had dreams like that. Again, they're common as dirt. So is the sunrise. That doesn't make it any less a miracle. Before I got to North Carolina, I worked in the oil fields around Buras, Louisiana. I lived in a bunkhouse with a bunch of other transient geeks. One guy, transient geeks. We're not so transient around here, but we probably know some transient geeks. One guy had picked up a paperback about meditation in a bookstore in New Orleans. He was teaching me how to do it. I used to go out to this dock after work and see if I could get into it. One night, this came. I was sitting cross-legged when an eagle came and landed on my shoulders. The eagle merged with me and took off flying, so that my head became its head and my arms its wings. It felt completely authentic. I could feel the air under my wings, as solid as water feels when you row it with an oar. It was substantial. You could push off against it. So this was how birds flew. I realized it was impossible for a bird to fall out of the sky. All it would have to do is extend its wings. The solid air would hold it up with the same power we feel when we stick our hand out the window of a moving car. I was pretty impressed with this movie that was playing in my head, but I still had no idea what it meant. I asked the eagle, "Hey, what am I supposed to be learning from this?" A voice answered silently, "You're not supposed to learn. Oh, you're supposed to learn that things that you think are nothing, as weightless as air, that things you think are nothing, as weightless as air, are actually powerful, substantial forces, as real and as solid as earth." I understood. The eagle was telling me that dreams, visions, meditations, such as this very one things that I had till now or disdained as fantasy and illusion, were as real and as solid as anything in my waking life. I believed the eagle. I got the message. How could I not? I had felt the solidness of the air. I knew it was telling me the truth. Which brings us back to the question, where did the eagle come from? Why did he show up at just the right time to tell me what I needed to hear? Clearly, some unseen intelligence had created him, giving him form as an eagle so that I would understand what it wanted to communicate. This intelligence was babying me along, keeping it simple, making its point in terms so clear and elementary that someone as numb and asleep as I could understand. All right. And you know what I realized we did? We did not do the breathe and sip. I guess I skipped that because I'm feeling sick at the moment. So we have to do that. We were supposed to breathe and sip before we read, but let's breathe and sip right now. So everybody got your favorite beverage right here? I've got my tankard right here. Everybody, 2 deep breaths in, complete inhales, complete exhales, deep inhales, complete exhales, and then take a sip of your favorite beverage. So here we go. Let's sip. And sip. Got out of order this morning. Sorry about that. Some people were probably calling that out in the comments. PH says the old ones have been able to hear you plea. Hey, Jason. Hey, good morning, Jason. Jason says, good morning. I want to be a game master. Well, you've come to the right place. Just 1 second. Breathe the water, sip the air, mental health for mental fish. Oh, Stray's gifted a membership. Thank you very much, Stray. Stray's very generous. Who got the membership? I'm in the wrong place. Multiverse DM. Multiverse DM was gifted a membership by Stray. Thank you. Congratulations, Multiverse. Hang on. I'm just trying to do something really quick. But I can't. Okay. Let's see. Good morning, TSL Frontman. Good morning. Good morning. Sable says, I've had those flying dreams where you can feel the air under you and push off too. You know, when I fly in dreams, it's more like that too. I don't fly like Superman in dreams, but I can, push against air sometimes. Let's see. So our second sacrament of the day, or is it third sacrament? Does the breathe and sip count as a sacrament? I'm not sure. We just want to point out that the Colosseum here, in Rome. Okay, it began construction in 72. So in 72 AD. So if we're wondering, like, was the Colosseum up where you're here at the time of the birth of Christ? It was not. Construction began at the Colosseum. I've been to the Colosseum. It was quite fascinating. It began construction in 72 AD and could hold an estimated 50 to 80,000 spectators at various points in its history. So completed in 80 AD. So we know it was not up at the birth of Christ. I was checking on that when I was writing the Trial of St. Gabriel. When we go to the emperor in Rome, do you need to look out and see the Colosseum? And the answer is no. The Colosseum does not need to be there because it was not begun until 72. and not completed until 80, but it could have held an estimated 50 to 80,000 spectators. Just a fact about the Roman Empire for everyone to enjoy today. Phaser Risk says, my one wish is to be able to control my dreams, but every time I realize I'm dreaming, I wake up. Good morning, Andrew. Good morning. All right, let's get into this book here. Let's get into our main topic here. And I am sorry that my voice is so gravelly this morning. I wish I were better. Feeling better this morning. I mean, I feel okay, but I'm all congested. Okay, so here we go. Let's take a look at So You Want to Be a Game Master and see what's inside. And if you have questions, we're going to take notes, put them in the comments. Of course, Justin is with us in the chat, I believe. So if we have questions, comments, concerns, we can put them in the chat. But then also, we want to take notes on anything that we want to be sure that comes up tonight. So I'm going to put make some notes right here. I got my paper ready. And like I said, this is a huge book. So we'll take a look at the table of contents. But I mean, this is a tome of a book about being a game master. So, all right, let's get into it. Everything you need to start your tabletop adventure for Dungeons and Dragons. Hey, good morning, RPG. RPG with DBJ. Good morning. Good to see everybody. Okay. Okay, so what is inside this book with the table of contents? Introduction. All right, we'll take a look at the introduction here. Dungeons. Part 1 is Dungeons. And you can see it's only almost 200 pages just on Dungeons alone. So part 1 is Dungeons. Step 1, the ruling. Step 2, how to run a dungeon. Homework, your first dungeon. Dungeon adventure, methods, and magnum. Step 3 is how to run a dungeon. Homework, design a dungeon. Advanced dungeons, dynamic dungeons. And now you are the master. Yes, please do like the stream, everyone. Sable Phoenix says, a great group of strange characters this morning. Yes. We have quite a character. We got 17 people watching right now, which is fantastic. Please do hit the like button. Part 2 is mysteries. Scenes, the 3-clue rule. This is something that Justin is known for. Part 2, mysteries. Scenes, the 3-clue rule. Homework, your first mystery. Node-based adventures. Homework, 5-node mystery. Homework, 5x5 campaign. Part 3 is raids and heists. The raid, running a raid, homework, execute a raid, and the heist. Part 4 is urban adventures. The city, downtime, faction downtime, urban crawls, and social events. Part 5 is into the wild, watches, routes, homework, the route map, hex crawls, homework, design a hex crawl, wilderness point crawls, homework, the many-headed point. And then extra credit, creating your campaign, create a campaign status documents, learning a new RPG, the open table, quick and dirty world building, rumor table, running combat, scenario hooks, supporting cast, and splitting the party. Then we have To the Future, Justin's favorite RPGs, acknowledgments about the author and index. James is digging this font right here. James says, I like this font. The Alexandrian says, I couldn't be happier with the work Page Street Publishing did on the layout. There's an index. I noticed that. As I was looking at the physical copy of this. There is, in fact, an index in the back. So if you are looking for something in the tome of this book, well, we've got it right here. All right, let's see about this introduction so we see what this book is about. Introduction. Introduction. You have chosen to enter a world of heroic adventure. More importantly, you have taken your first step towards unlocking these adventures with your friends. All right, sorry about that. Maybe a nose blow will help. You have chosen to enter a world of heroic adventure. Most importantly, you have taken your first step toward unlocking those adventures for your friends. Unlike books, movies, and other games, a role playing game, RPG, offers infinite adventures limited only by the power of your imagination. And because it's a game of imagination, it can be played almost anywhere. Most games are played around a table, but you can just as easily play via video call, email, or use special programs called virtual tabletops. One member of the group, the one this book is about and whom you've chosen to become, is the game master, the GM. In Dungeons and Dragons, one of the most popular role-playing games, the GM is known as the Dungeon Master, the DM. As the DM, you'll be responsible for describing the fantasy world in which the game takes place. As you come around the corner, you see the corridor comes to a dead end. Carved in bas-relief upon the wall is a giant face, a face larger than you are tall. As your gaze alights upon it, the face begins to move. Its granite lips form words that thunder down the corridor. Who dares to trespass here? TSL Frontman says another great font that's great for rule books is Tahoma, very accessible for reader sensitivities and very comfortable to read, though very different from this one. Oh, Sable Phoenix asks, the Alexandrian, do you use Blades in the Dark as an example in the urban adventure section? I don't think I've seen any other system codify the mechanics of a downtime factions quite as well. We took a look at Blades in the Dark. Very popular around here. The other players can now tell you what they're going to do. Will they talk to the face, try to destroy it, cast a spell to silence it, or will they try something completely different? The decision is up to them. But the players don't need to play as themselves. Instead, they create the role of fantasy hero and step into their shoes. Perhaps they'd like to play as a heroic knight pursuing quests of honor, or as an enigmatic wizard seeking lost secrets in the cosmos, or as an ancient elf hoping that the companionship of the younger races will help him recover the youth he lost centuries ago. In a role-playing game, you can pretend to be anyone you want. Playing an RPG is a little like performing an improvised radio drama. It's as if you were acting out a play or movie, but there's no script and the wonders of your adventure are not limited by even the most extravagant of special effects budgets. Anything you can imagine is possible in a role-playing game. But an RPG isn't just make-believe or let's pretend. It's a game. The player characters will face challenges, monsters, traps, and the like, and their success is not assured. By rolling dice and following the rules of the game, you'll be able to determine the success or failure of your character's actions. In other words, the players will tell you, the DM, what they want their characters to do, and you'll use the rules and your own creativity to figure out what the result is. Into the dungeon. For most of you reading this, nothing I've written here will come as a surprise. You've either played a role-playing game before or read a similar introduction in a rule book or watched an actual play video featuring other people playing the game. That's why you picked up the book in the first place. In fact, you may have already run your first adventure as a DM and are trying to figure out how you can do it better. But whether you're taking your first steps or taking your game to the next level, let's take a peek at an example of what actually playing a role-playing game looks like, how that relates to what you'll be doing as the DM, and how this book is going to help you do that. Oh, I love examples like this. I always like it when they put examples like this in the books. In fact, that was one of my first exposures to exactly what we were supposed to be doing anyway, when I had the MERP RPG. MERP has the sample of how to play. But Dungeons and Dragons did as well. AD&D did as well, I believe. If in today's world, yes, we've got videos of all kinds and actual play to let you know what's going on. but I still like the actual written out play example. And we enjoyed reading them when we were trying to learn different role-playing games. Having a good play example that demonstrates like all of the major actions of the game is pretty good. And how to, how to resolve actions and such. TSL Furman says, thanks, Justin, for all your work and contributions to RPGs in general. Justin says, Blades in the Dark was a big influence. Also, Ars Magica, Stoll's Reign, I don't know that one, Traveler, and Dave Arneson's first fantasy campaign. As far as tall as Ars Magica stands in the annals of far and tall as Ars Magica stands in the annals of RPGs. I've never played that one yet. The Alexandrian. I still remember the injured were-rat on the dirty bed from the AD&D 2nd edition PHB example of play. That's exactly what I was thinking about. So it did have an example of play. I remember they're in a tunnel. The one I'm thinking of, they're in a tunnel and they're trying to get into some layer or something. And they have to stand on a stone in order to push some secret passage, to open a secret passage. Is that the one? Is that the right one? No, I don't see it. I thought that would be right in the beginning. Oh, no, it is right here. Yes. The real basics and example of play. Yep, you're running along a tunnel. Yep. No, that's it. That's it in the AD&D book. So that one was also very influential. The MERP one and the AD&D one with the were-rats. Yep. Okay, so Jason. Jason is a great name. I was wondering, Jason is a great name. What does that mean? Oh, Jason right there. Jason is serving as the DM for a group of 3 players. Seth is playing Ranthier, and a young apprentice wizard with an endless thirst for knowledge and a penchant for carrying a dozen different bags and satchels packed with various useful odds and ends. Sarah is playing Tithan Mamawin, or T, an elven maid rebelling against her elders. Dave is playing Agnar, a brash barbarian who has little regard for the cares or concerns of the civilized worlds. The group, also commonly known as a party, are currently exploring an underground labyrinth once occupied by the Sons of Jade, a group of scholars, lore masters, and magi who sought to unlock the secrets of the ancient and powerful Jade magi of the lost city of Chandrala. Okay, Jason, the DM, says, as you emerge through the rubble of the broken wall, you see a large room of cream-colored stone. There are 3 doors leading out of the room. A tall door of bluish steel directly across from you, and 2 smaller ones off to each side. Excuse me. In the corner of the chamber, a huge mass of debris has been piled high. Jason is running a dungeon scenario in which the player characters, the PCs, have descended into an underground vault filled with dangers to overcome and treasures to win. We'll be looking at how to run and create your own dungeons in part 1, starting on page 21. Sarah, T, I'll go check out the door of blue steel. Dave, Agnar, I'll go deep it through the garbage. I'll go dig through the garbage. Sarah, T, there's no pile of filth too large or small for Agnar. Jason, DM, laughing. Okay, Agnar starts digging through the trash. T, the door is locked. Seth, Ragthier, does it look like that last door of blue steel we found? Jason, DM, virtually identical. Sarah, T, says, well, I won't be able to pick the lock then. We need the password. A role-playing game is a conversation. You'll describe what the PCs see. The players will respond by telling you what their characters do in response or by asking questions to clarify their understanding of the situation, and then you'll respond to them. It's a loop, right? Your topic of conversation is the fictional world of the game, and you'll build that world and the things that happen in it by actively engaging with that conversation. You'll listen to each other. You'll build on each other's ideas. You may even get emotional or interrupt or disagree with each other, just like any other conversation. Dave Agnar says, I hate those doors. To Jason, have I found anything in the trash pile yet? Jason, the DM, says, looks like a lot of glass and metal, small stuff. Seth says, anything interesting? Jason says, give me an intelligence arcana check. Seth Ranthier rolls some dice, 13. Jason says, there's a bunch of alchemical equipment. You think it might be the remains of a rather large laboratory. Agnar's smashing a lot of it, but it doesn't look like it was worth much to begin with. Seth Ranthier, carry on. The character is attempting an action, and the DM isn't certain of the outcome. The character is attempting an action, and the DM isn't certain of the outcome, so he calls for a skill check using the mechanics of the game to determine the outcome. The player rolls a 20-sided die, adds their intelligence modifier, and because they're proficient in the Arcana skill, their proficiency bonus. The result is 13, which the DM compares to the difficulty of the action. Because the check was equal to or higher than the difficulty, Ranthier succeeded in identifying the alchemical equipment. This is called a ruling. As the DM, you're figuring out how the rules of the game can be used to determine what happens in the game world. This is more or less the most basic skill of being a DM. When the player says, I want to do X, how do you respond? We'll break the skill down into a simple procedure starting on page 24. Jason, the DM, says, as you shove aside a particularly large mass of debris, you reveal the corpse of a dead goblin. The sticky sweet smell of decay washes over you in a thick wave. What are you doing? Hey, hey, Charlie. Good to see you this morning. Yeah, I need a cast cure disease this morning. I cast Bigby's nose pinching hand. Jason says, as you shove aside, okay, so we just got the smelly goblin, so we've got the Bigby's nose pinching hand on now. Sarah T says, T doesn't even look. She wants no part of whatever's making that smell. She's going to head over to the door to the left and see if she can get that open. Dave Agnar says, I'll keep digging. Sarah T says, of course you will. Jason says, there are a couple more goblin corpses after the first. Seth Ranthier says, how long have they been dead? Roll some dice. I got a 17 on my wisdom medicine check. Wisdom is a different ability score from intelligence, and medicine is a different skill from arcana. Different characters will have different ability scores and be proficient in different skills. Figuring out which mechanics to use is an important part of making a good ruling. Jason, the DM, says, hard to say for certain. Perhaps at least a couple of weeks. They're pretty badly decomposed. Seth, oh yeah, so these goblins are pretty far gone then. Seth Ranthier says, okay, I guess I'll keep an eye out over Agnar's shoulder. If he comes across anything valuable, I'll try to stop him before he destroys it. Jason says, the DM says, a couple of layers down from the corpses, Agnar suddenly unearths a perfectly preserved box of cherry wood with a mosaic design of inlaid jade. It seems to be completely unmarked, a stark contrast to the broken junk around it. Seth Ranthier says, I cast Detect Magic. Detect Magic is the name of a magical spell. Some characters, including wizards like Ranthier, are capable of casting powerful dweemers. This spell allows Ranthier to detect the presence of other magical effects. Jason, the DM, to Sarah, says, T finds the door unlocked. Sarah T says, I'll open it. Jason, the DM, says, as soon as your spell comes into effect, you can see a faint magical aura around the box. Ranthier says to Dave, may I please see that, Master Agnar? Agnar, with a shrug, sure, I hand it over. Seth Ragnar says, I try to open the box. Jason, the DM, speaking to Seth, says, you open the box to find a perfectly preserved pack of love letters. They appear to have been written by a woman named Athara and are addressed to a man named Olus. To Sarah, the door swings open with a loud rusty creak. The narrow hall beyond the door is choked with thick rope-like webs. The web nearest the door have been hacked apart and hang forlornly from the walls in tattered wisps. About 15 feet away, you can see another hall intersecting with this one. And at the intersection, the hacking of webs comes to an end. And you can see the corpses of two large spiders. Spiders nearly the size of a small cow lie belly up on the stone floor there. A dungeon adventure is divided into separate rooms. Everything until this point has taken place in one room, and Jason knows what's in that room. For example, what's hidden inside the pile of garbage by looking at his notes for that room. We call these notes the room key. Now, Sarah has opened a door and is looking into another room, so Jason flips through his notes for the key to that room and can describe what Sarah sees there. Knowing how to create, read, and run a room key is, of course, a fundamental part of running a successful dungeon adventure. See page 37 for more information on running a room. Sarah T says, guys, I think you should come over here and look at this. To Jason, do I see anything unusual about the spider corpses? Jason, the DM, calls for a perception check. Seth Ranthier says, I close the box and head over to T. Sarah T rolls some dice. Awesome. Natural 20 for a total of 28. Jason says, at first everything seems okay, but then one of the corpses starts to twitch. Sarah says, that's bad. Jason, the DM, says, actually, you're pretty sure it's not the corpse itself. Something on. Sarah says, that's very, very bad. Seth, pretending he doesn't know what only T can see. What's wrong? Sarah says, something very, very bad to Jason. I slammed the door shut. Jason, the DM, says, as you reach for the door, you see 5 smaller spiders. These are only about the size of a large dog, burst out of the larger corpses and start skittering to you. Ugh. Sarah says, I slammed the door shut. The GM says, you slammed the door shut. I need initiative checks. Sarah rolls some dice for 7, Agnar for 16, Seth for 10. In D&D, there's a special set of rules used to resolve combat. When combat starts, every character, including the giant spiders being controlled by the DM, rolls for initiative. The highest initiative results goes first, followed by the highest, second highest, and so forth. By forcing everyone to take turns, the conversation during combat becomes more formal. This will help you and the players keep track of a situation that might otherwise be hopelessly complex. On page 486, we'll dive into this technique that can make running combat even more fun, and we'll also find other situations in which more formal structure can help you run your game. Sable says, this Jason DM is a great narrator. Yes, indeed. Dungeon Master says, it was the example of play in the second ed player's handbook where they lifted the stone above the block of stone to reveal approaching ghouls that convinced me I had to play this game. Yeah, it's what I was talking about. That one was a fantastic, very memorable example of play. Of course, there weren't that many of them, I suppose, but that one was fun to read and got you into it. Philip Dudley says, where did this PDF for the book come from? This was sent to me. This is an alpha review copy. So Jason was very kind to send me both a digital copy, a PDF, so I can put up the PDF as we're looking at it today, but then also a physical copy right here. So they were sent to me. Oh, yeah. Innerlight got that. Yes. Spiders that are only the size of a small dog. Oh, Charlie's already ordered. Charlie says, ordered this book. Comes out next week. Let's see. Yes, you did appear. Let's see. All right. So only we're fighting these small dogs here. So Jason, the DM, says rolling dice for the spiders. Okay, Agnar, you're first. Dave, Agnar, I throw my shoulder against the door and try to hold it shut. I've got oil. Anyone got fire? T says, you've got your flaming sword. Dave, Agnar says, oh, right. Well, I don't think I can open the door. Throw the oil and light it before the spiders get through. Sarah says, throw the oil over here to Jason. Can we have him yank the door open while I throw the flask, and then he can hit it with his sword in midair? Jason, the DM, says, sure. Dave, Agnar, says, awesome. Okay, I toss my flask of oil to T and get ready to open the door. For the glory! Jason, the DM, says, all right. As Agnar shouts the command word for his sword, it bursts into flame. He yanks open the door as T throws the oil. The flaming greatsword leaps through the air, shattering the flask and sending a cascade of burning oil over the bustling mass of spiders just inside the door. Not only the oil, but also the thick, dry webs burst into flame. Roll some dice. 2 of the spiders on fire come bursting out of the conflagration. One crawls up Agnar's leg and buries its fangs into his thigh. Oh! Dave, Agnar, says, get off, get off. Jason, the DM, rolls some dice. You take 4 points of damage and I'll need a Constitution saving throw. Characters have hit points, which represents their vitality. When a character takes damage, they lose hit points. When a character runs out of hit points, they fall unconscious and may die. Dave, Agnar, rolls some dice. 18. Jason says, okay, I can feel the acidic burn. You can feel the acidic burn of the spider's venom, but you manage to shake it loose before it can deliver a full dose. It falls back to the floor at Agnar's feet. To Seth, the other spider is scuttling straight toward Ranthir. What do you do? Seth, playing Ranthir, says, I cast Magic Missile. Roll some dice. 3, 4, and 5 points of damage. Jason says 3 blasts of Eldritch Force lance out from Ranthir's fingertips, striking the spider in mid-scuttle. It gives a high-pitched screech as it collapses into a small, smoldering ball. To Dave, it's Agnar's turn again. Dave, Agnar says, with a howl of rage, Agnar smites the little bastard. Roll some dice. 16 to hit. Jason says, the spider, shaken free from Agnar's leg, is still skittering across the floor as Agnar's greatsword smashes down on it. Give me damage. Dave, Agnar, roll some dice. 14 points of damage plus 3 fire damage. Jason says, Agnar's sword cleaves the spider in twain. A great gout of greenish ichor geysers into the air. Sarah, T says, are there any spiders moving in the hallway? Jason says, no, it looks like the flaming oil killed them. But the fire back there is getting quite intense. It's being fueled by the thick webs. Can I scroll down on the PDF some more? Oh, am I not keeping up as well as I could be? I'll try to do that. Dungeon Master says, the example of play for the Amber Diceless game was fun to read too, and necessary to get a grasp of the mechanics. Oh, yeah, I think we read that one when we were looking at Amber. So we read that one. I don't remember it as well, but I'm pretty sure we must have read that one as well. TSL Furman says, I greatly appreciate pointing out the no, we can't do 3 dexterous things in half a second of action. Andrew says, these seem like experienced players. It's been a while, but I feel like normally there's a lot more questions about what the characters can do. Much less flow than here. Maybe I just played with cautious people who wanted to vet their actions before declaring what they were going to do. You're right. There isn't a lot of questioning going on. No, in fact, I'm going to make that a question for tonight. We've talked about who was it? I guess that was the angry game master, the angry DM, who was talking about that you want there to be as few questions coming back to you as possible as the game master, because that does slow down the flow of games. So if you want to present all the characters with everything necessary to for them to take action, and sometimes you have to get questions back. We talked about that, but if you can present all the information on their turn, the players should be able to act and not have to have questions back to us. Questions as error. We can talk about that. And Justin, we can talk about your opinion on knowledge checks as well, because I see that we've got knowledge checks going on here. We've talked about rolling for knowledge checks and whether or not you should do that. So you must be pro that because you've got it in here, or at least this is the way that, or it's this way because it's Dungeons and Dragons. Philip says players should definitely be asking questions all the time. Keep the information flowing. So he disagrees. Sable says there's definitely a difference in your average experienced player who are just used to telling the DM what they want to do. I'm very lucky I have 2 players in my group who are also DMs themselves. The sessions are usually quite smooth. So Justin says, ideally, the questions they ask move the action forward rather than trying to clarify stuff they didn't understand. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Yeah. If you, so there's 2 different types of questions. What I was talking about there was the players themselves do not sufficiently understand the situation that they're in order to make some type of judgment call about what an appropriate action would be or what they can or cannot do. So that was the point, that you should try to eliminate the number of questions that have to come back to the game master to clarify stuff so they can even act. Right. Yeah. So, because that's what Philip was talking about. BGD says, I don't think minimizing questions to the game master is a mandatory priority. This is always a hot button topic. I don't think minimizing questions to the game master is a mandatory priority for the game. Player questions are good feedback to the game that players are engaged in thinking outside the box and in a lively fashion. Okay, let's see what we got here. I close the door. I say we just wait for it to burn out. Sounds good to me. Should we try the other door? Seth says, actually, I've got an idea to Jason. I take out the packet of love letters we found. I'm going to stand in front of the door of blue steel and start reading them out loud. Jason says, okay. Sarah says, what are you doing? Seth says, if the door of blue steel has a password, then it must have been known to the Sons of Jade when they worked here. And if these letters were written at the same time, the password might be mentioned. That Jason, the DM, says, how long are you going to keep reading? And Seth says, until I finish the letters. Jason, the DM, says, after 22 minutes of reading, Ranthir begins a new letter. I'm sorry I've not written to you sooner, but the old taskmaster has been working us hard again. Athor Karasak may be thinking to himself, but he trails off at the name Avathor Krasak. The door of blue steel begins to swing open. Andrew says, in my limited experience, sometimes players don't have a complete grasp of the rules, so you have to guide them more. Again, maybe I played with more slackers. Well, not necessarily slackers. Yeah, so that's also on a different level. There's clarifications about the actual situation that the characters are in, and then there are clarifications about what's actually possible with the rules, or what, some type of rules clarification about how to undertake some kind of action. So those are two also different types of questions that we've got. BGD says, like most things, the key is balance, not dumping too much detail for the players that they can't absorb or engage with it. A GM who presents the right amount of details apprises the players appropriately. Lynn says, when your dungeon crawl suddenly becomes a book club. Okay, active play. One of the coolest things about a role-playing game, and you can see it happening in this example of play, is that nobody knows what's going to happen until it happens. If Jason were writing a story for somebody else to read, obviously he'd be in complete control. He'd know that A would happen, and then B would happen, and then C would happen. But Jason isn't an author writing a story. He's a dungeon master playing the game with his friends. So the players, for example, don't know there are spider hatchlings inside the mother's corpse, ick. Jason does because he's created the scenario and plays the non-player characters, but he doesn't know the player characters are going to try to light the corridor on fire. BGD says, this is following off the previous comment, a GM who presents the right amount of details apprises players appropriately, and the game flows nicely because questions asked are limited to action focused on solving the challenges presented. Yes. Oh, so actually, Justin says this example of actual play is actually taken from an actual session I ran, but it's definitely cleaned up a bit from the literal transcript. That's nice. So you were playing, so you were game mastering this? Lynn says, I always assume the players will eventually try to set fire to virtually anything. Probably can't go wrong with that. Similarly, Jason knows the password for the blue steel door is Athor Krasik, a former administrator of the laboratory, but he wasn't anticipating Ranthir's player deciding to read the love letters in front of the door. Does the name Avathor Krasik even appear in those letters? Jason doesn't know that either, so he decides to roll the dice to find out. Moments like these are created through active play. The players are actively playing their characters. In response, the DM is actively playing all of the other characters and are also constantly putting toys into the fictional world. The love letters, the door, the discarded alchemy equipment that everyone gets to play with. Active play is the fundamental principle of a role-playing game, and the secret to being a dungeon master ultimately boils down to A, prepping cool toys for you and your players, and then B, playing with them freely and creating together. Everything else is just a matter of technique. TSL Frontman says, an impressive ratio of flavorful words to mechanical explanations. Not a syllable is wasted, it feels. So yes, Jason says, "Yep." Justin says, "Yep." Jason is my thinly veiled alter ego. Philip says, "I also want to say thank you, Justin, for making this a physical book, as sometimes I have a hard time reading from a screen as I stare at them all day." Yes, well, the same way over here. I stare at them all day. I've got a huge stack of physical books to go through, and it's just so many things to do. At least a physical book gets you away from the computer. Like my life, we talk about that all the time. Life is just sitting here at the computer for me. Sable says, "I like that they're being called toys." So taking your first step, this book isn't a role-playing game. It won't teach you the rules. If you want to play Dungeons and Dragons, you'll pick up either the D&D starter set for a quick playable introduction, or the 3 rule books that contain the full game: the Player's Handbook, the Dungeon Master's Guide, and the Monster Manual. In fact, from this point forward, I'll be assuming you're familiar with the rules of D&D. The rule books will teach you how to play, but you want to do more than that. You want to be a dungeon master. You want to create the adventure and entire worlds to share with your players. You want to invite them into the wondrous vistas you've imagined and forged unforgettable stories with them. But where do you even begin? Just turn the page. Imagining an entire universe may feel daunting right now, but we're going to break this down step by step. Starting in the dungeon, we'll walk through running an adventure. That'll go a lot faster than you might think. You could be DMing your first game tomorrow if you wanted to. After that, you'll design an adventure for the first time and run that too. You'll be amazed at how simple it can be. We'll build on that foundation to make your adventures more dynamic and exciting, and then you'll be ready to choose new types of adventures to explore: heists, mysteries, conspiracies, and more. So let's see. Other role-playing games. Dungeons & Dragons is a fantasy RPG set in a world inspired by the works of authors like J.R.R. Tolkien, N.K. Jemisin, George R.R. Martin, and Robert E. Howard. But there are many other RPGs. If you enjoy cyberpunk cyberpunk stories, you might check out the Cyberpunk Red or Tech Noir. Like horror movies, check out Unknown Armies or Call of Cthulhu. You can also find licensed RPGs based directly on fictional universes you already love, like Star Wars, A Song of Ice and Fire, Alien, and Doctor Who. And we have certainly looked at a lot of them here on this morning grind. For the sake of simplicity, the examples in the first section of this book are going to assume you're playing the 5th edition of Dungeons & Dragons. But the vast majority of this book and the skills you'll learn will be useful no matter what RPG you have chosen. Andrew says, excited to get to the chapter on how to deal with the player that brings their date to the gaming session who doesn't really want to play but is forced to play. That always goes well. Oh, well, that's a good topic too. Because there are 2 different elements to that. You're talking about if he or she doesn't want to be there, but then there's the other type that would actually want to play. Oh, this says Sable says, makes me want to play in one of your campaigns. I believe talking to the Alexandrian. With the George, because what do you mean you want to roll charisma? You can't roll charisma to open a door, Jerry. Well, maybe you can't, George. All right, so part 1, dungeons. Let's see what's in dungeons then. So I think we're getting to the meat of it here. So Dungeons & Dragons was born in the dungeon. Oh, Lynn says, it's even more fun running the game when 2 of the players have recently divorced. Oh, yeah, that could be worse. I've also seen that Uncomfortable Date movie. Dungeons & Dragons was born in the dungeon with Dave Arneson, the creator of the modern role-playing game, carving out the labyrinths beneath Castle Blackmore and giving his players the opportunity to delve down into its depths. As a new dungeon master, you're going to start your adventures in the dungeon too. The classic dungeon is an underground complex, a maze of corridors linking rooms filled with monsters, traps, and treasures. The heroes in a dungeon adventure enter the maze, defeat the monsters, avoid the traps, and claim the treasure for themselves. Just one second. I want to make sure that I've got something right here. I meant to put this link out right here. Okay, here's our link. Let me take this down. I just remembered this. Sorry, I meant to put this up earlier. I'm putting this up to being sick at the moment. But here, so if you're looking for this book, right here it is on Amazon. So it says that this title will be released on November 21st, but you can go ahead and pre-order it right now. So let me put this link right here. So this is so you want to be a game master on Amazon right now. There's the link. So there you go. Check it out there, and then it will be on its way to you when it comes out. Sable says $20 for a book this thick seems like a steal. And with all this info. All right, let's go back to the book. Look. There. Okay. As a new dungeon master, we said that. The heroes in a dungeon adventure enter the maze, defeat the monsters, avoid the traps, and claim the treasure for themselves. Or maybe they'll flip the script, ally with the monsters, and donate the treasure to a local orphanage. A dungeon scenario, the adventure you'll be running for your players, is presented in two parts: the dungeon map and the dungeon key. A dungeon map will look something like this. Yep, looks like we have classic underground dungeon look here. On the map, you can see the various rooms that make up the dungeon, and each room has been labeled with a number. In the dungeon key, each numbered room is then given a full description telling you everything you need to know when the PCs enter that room. Imagine you're sitting at a table with your friends and running a dungeon scenario. The PCs are currently standing in one of the rooms for the dungeon. So you look at the dungeon key for that room and describe the players what they see. The player will respond by telling you what they want their characters to do in that room, and you'll tell them what happens as a result. Think about Agnar rooting through the garbage pile or Ranthir reading through the love letters. When the players have done everything they want to do in the room, they'll be able to choose which one of the exits from which room, a doorway, an archway, a hallway, a secret passage, and go to a new room, which you can then look up in the dungeon key and describe it. And that's it. You just keep repeating that loop. Describe the room, resolve the player's actions, go to the next room, describe the room until the adventure is done. It's very simple. It's also very straightforward for the players because they'll never be left wondering what they should be doing next. Either there'll be something in the current room they want to do, or they can pick an exit and go to the next room. To get ready for running your first dungeon, we're going to break the dungeon loop into two parts and look at each of them separately. First, how you resolve the actions declared by the players, a process we call a ruling. Second, how the dungeon key works and how you can use it to describe and run each room. So, notes on dice notation. We all know that. Step 1, the ruling. If playing an RPG is a conversation between you and your friends, then the most basic element of that conversation is the ruling. After you've described what's going on in the game world and a player responds by saying they want their character to do something, what happens next? As the DM, that's what you get to figure out. You get to figure out and create. Once you do get to figure it out, of course, you'll describe the outcome to your players. Hearing this updated version of what's going on in the game world will prompt one or more of them to say what the next thing is that they want to do. At which point, of course, you'll make another ruling, which will prompt a response that will prompt a ruling, which will prompt a response, and so on. It's easy to see that whereas a lot of other stuff may happen while you're playing an RPG, this ruling response cycle really forms the core of your conversation. It's the backbone of everything that happens during the game. This also means that making good rulings is the most basic skill you'll want as a DM. For example, players might say things like, I want to jump over the chasm. I open the door. I'm going to the library to research parasitic demons. I attack the orc with my sword. I'm pulling out my thieves' tools. Let's see if I can pick this lock. Justin says, I'll also mention this is being distributed by Macmillan, so you should be able to pre-order this title from wherever you get your favorite books and also your local gaming store. Oh, that's fantastic to know. So you should be able to get it from your local gaming store as well. So ask there. That would be a great thing to do. The veins of the earth has forever changed the way I think about mapping dungeons. Hey, good morning, Robert. Good morning. Good to see you. Top down. I don't say, have we been over that? The veins of the earth? Top down maps seem shallow to me now. Well, Veins of the Earth and Mothership too. Mothership has fantastic isometric maps. We must not have looked at that on the morning grind yet. Take a moment and think about each one of those declarations. You're limited because you don't really have the full context in which these declarations are being made. How wide is the chasm? What type of door is it? Who are the characters involved, etc. But let whatever first pops into your mind roll around for a bit. What would it be the response to each declaration? Why? Can you imagine a different response to the same declaration? You might find this exercise easy, but no, really, actually stop reading, take a minute, and do it. You might find it difficult. You might find it easy for some declarations and finicky for others. So our declarations were, I want to jump over the chasm. I open the door. I'm going to the library to research parasitic demons. I attack the orc with my sword. I'm pulling out my thieves' tools. Let's see if I can pick the lock. How would we respond to those declarations? Either way, though, I'm pretty sure you're able to come up with a response for every one of those declarations. So the first thing to take away from this exercise is that rulings are something you can already do. They're not an arcane ritual, but we like arcane rituals around here. And they don't require special skills. They're a basic act of creativity, and your imagination has just proven itself equal to the task. What we want to do, though, is make our rulings easier, faster, and more reliable. Since we're playing a game, you'll want to integrate your rulings with the game mechanics. There's a fairly basic procedure you can follow for this, and it starts by defaulting to yes. Okay, so here we got a rule here for us. Default to yes. The easiest ruling for a DM to make is no. Player, I want to jump over the chasm. DM, you can't. Player, I'm going to the library to research parasitic demons. DM, you don't find any information. Player, I attack the orc with my sword. You miss. When you use no, everything is simple. There are no complications, no consequences. You don't have to create anything. But that's exactly why you almost never want to use it. No stagnates the action. It leaves the situation unchanged. Instead of giving the players a new situation they can react to, you're instead asking them to come up with a new reaction to the same situation. What you want to do is almost the exact opposite. Default to yes. Player, I want to jump over the chasm. Okay, you're on the other side. Player, I'm going to the library to research parasitic demons. You find a book of lore written by a scholar named Sagrathia. He reports that parasitic demons can be revealed by splashing holy water on their host. Player, I attack the orc with my sword. DM, you mercilessly stab the orc. With a shocking look in her eyes, she slumps to the floor in front of you. Everyone crit the like button. Everyone crit the like button for FGLS, the fantasy favorite local gaming store carrying the awesome book. Yes, please do. So Sable confirms we have not done a morning grind on Veins of the Earth yet. It's been brought up a few times. Where is my main RPG list? I bet it's sitting over there. Veins of the Earth. All right. I'll have to remember that. Yes. Yes moves the action forward. It creates a new situation that both you and the players will now be forced to respond to. Now that they're on the other side of the chasm, what will they do? Where are they going to find a supply of holy water? How are they going to hide the orc's corpse? At the most basic level, defaulting to yes also makes sense because most people succeed at the stuff they do. Walk down to the corner store, say hello to an old friend, read a book. If someone wants to do these things, they almost certainly have no problem doing so, and that applies to most of the things that players tell you their character is going to do. Another thing to keep in mind is the players are generally going to propose doing things they want to see happen. So when you default to yes, you're really just giving your audience what they want, which is almost always a winning move. Plus, your players probably already know how they want to respond to success. They wanted to jump across the chasm because there's something they wanted to do on the other side. It all boils down to that. It all boils down. Unless you have a specific reason for not saying yes, your ruling should always be yes. You do that, and here's what happens. I like big butts. There are limits to this, however. Saying yes some of the time is good, but the problem with saying yes all the time is that it eliminates the challenge for the game. While we always want to achieve our goals, the truth is that we also want to overcome obstacles. This is really good. I like this approach to this. It's only by triumphing over adversity that we can truly feel accomplishment, and we can't enjoy the hero's thrilling escape unless we first hang them off the cliff. Player, I want to jump over the chasm. DM, you leap across, but you come up a little bit short. Slamming into the edge of the abyss, you barely manage to grab onto a thick vine before plummeting into oblivion. This is yes, but. Yes, you succeed, but there's a complication or a consequence or a challenge. The great thing about yes, but is that you're not negating the player's contribution to the conversation. They wanted to get to the other side of the chasm, and now they've done that. What you've done is add your own contribution to what's happening, creating interest or confronting the player with a new challenge to solve. The flip side of the coin is the no, but. Imagine for a moment the player says they want to do something that you know is impossible. For example, I'm going to the library to research parasitic demons. Justin says, I didn't get enough puns into the book, but I did my best. Yes, but, we need to talk about that. I'm putting that on the list for discussion tonight. Failing forward. And seemingly all the controversy that brings up, that would be a great conversation for tonight. So, but there's no library in the small town. Or if there is, it's too small to have a collection of rare paranormal books necessary to do meaningful research on parasitic demons. This is a specific reason for not saying yes, which makes it a perfect time to say no. When you're making a ruling like this, though, it can be useful to take a step back, think about what the player's actual goal is, finding information about the parasitic demons, and offer an alternative method for doing that. PH says, doing an action should always progress the story. It could progress by solving a problem. Or by setting another. And by solving a problem, I mean create a situation in which the new problem may get birth. In which a new problem may get birthed. Yes, immediate first thing resolved, but now we have an additional complication, right? A new problem. No, the local library is too small to have that specialized information like that. But that the Bodleian Library has a large collection of paranormal texts, so you could take the train up to Oxford. In practice, the difference between yes, but and no, but can be razor thin or even non-essential at times. That's fine. We're not trying to classify every ruling we make with scientific precision. We just want to have a few useful rules of thumb that we can use to make effective and entertaining rulings for players. Making a check. TSL Frontman says, yes, blank, and no blank are some of the most important interactions we can have with our players. The more natural we get with them, the smoother so many things begin to flow. Yeah, I want to think about this specifically whenever I'm running a game. Yes, no, but then something else on that. Yes, but, no, and, yes, and, no, but are all extremely important in plotting any story. Improvisation, heavy or no. So making a check. I attack the orc with my sword. Okay, but you'll need to succeed on an attack roll. Sometimes the answer you're looking for is neither yes nor no. Instead, it's maybe or I'm not sure or let's find out together. When that's the case, you want to use the rules of the role-playing game to determine the character's success or failure. If that's an attack roll in D&D, like trying to stab an orc with your sword, then the rules are very specific about how the action is to be resolved. The difficulty of the roll is equal to the orc's armor class, AC, so you simply roll a 20-sided die, add your attack bonus, and compare it to the AC. If you rolled equal to or higher than the difficulty, you successfully stabbed the orc. If you didn't, then you missed the orc. But what if it's not a combat action? What if the PC is trying to accomplish something else? There are a number of different rules in D&D. The most basic is an ability or skill check. When in doubt, you can just pick an ability, score, or skill, set the difficulty class of the check, and ask the player to roll the dice. Before we pick up the dice, however, let's double check our check. Should we even be making this check? In fact, how do we know when it's the right time to call for a check? Great questions. Andrew says, PH, sometimes people just want to make a goof or have fun or role play. You play a cleric and you go spend an hour to play. Doesn't really push the action, but gives flavor. Well, let's review. If the player is asked to do something and success is trivial or certain, then we should default to yes. If success is possible, there's no local library, but there's an invisible wall blocking the far side of the or there's an invisible wall blocking the far side of the chasm, then the answer is no. Flipping that around, we can see the check should be used if success is possible, but not certain. Oh, I meant pray. Oh, I was wondering about that. If you play a cleric and you spend an hour to pray, it doesn't really push the action, but it gives flavor. That was pray. So that's something that cleric would be doing. Yes. TSL Frontman says, my game is not very openly narrative. It's more gamist, but even still, I have to say, no, you can't, but you can do blank all the time. Or yes and blank or blank might happen if you succeed or fail. Let's go one step further, though, and consider the potential failure state. Failure should be meaningful, interesting, or both. Okay, I like that too. If it's neither, then you shouldn't be rolling dice. So when to roll, that's another great subject. Let's go one step further, though, and consider, oh, yes, we just said that. Here's an example of where failure isn't interesting or meaningful. Player, I try to pick the lock. DM, you fail. What do you want to do? Player, I try to pick the lock again. DM, you fail. What do you want to do? Player, I try to pick the lock again. You can see the problem because nothing meaningful happens as a result. When to roll. So this is also on the topic of multiple tries. You can see the problem because nothing meaningful happens as a result of failing to pick the lock. The game ends up just kind of spinning its wheels. Does this mean you should never call for an ability check to pick a lock? No, not at all. Failing to pick the lock might be meaningful because the door is trapped, and failing to pick the lock will trigger the trap. You're trying to pick the lock during combat, and each time they fail to open the door, their companions have to survive another round of enemy attacks. They're in a hostile area, and if they fail to pick the lock, a guard patrol will discover them in the act. PH says, I agree, but even when the interaction is just for fun, I always progress the story by creating new relations or giving players new tools. Failure is meaningful and interesting when it creates an obstacle or consequences, forcing the PCs to create a new path to their goals. There are many ways to achieve this, but the easiest way of implementing meaningful failure is to simply not allow retries on the check. So here we go. The easiest way of implementing meaningful failure is to simply not allow retries on the check. If you failed to pick the lock on the door, that failed check tells us that you'll never be able to pick that lock. You did your best, but it didn't work. Well, in like D&D in the rules encyclopedia, when we're looking at the rules encyclopedia, it specifically said that you were not going to, if you fail something like that lock picking check, you're never going to be able to try again until you've gained an experience level. So that doesn't necessarily mean, as it's here, in something like the rules encyclopedia, that you'll never be able to open it, but that is beyond your skill level now, and you need to gain a level before attempting to pick that lock again. So that was a lot of consequence there in something like the rules encyclopedia. That meant that you're going to have to go and do dangerous things to get more experience points before you can come back and open that lock, or make another attempt. TSL Frontman says, make the rolls narratively conclusive, not just a mechanical test. So now what? Kick it in, cast a spell, look for a different entrance, look for a key, seduce the housekeeper. I don't know. You tell me. As you can see from these alternatives, each new path created from meaningful failure creates interest. The PCs are leaving evidence or engaging in further exploration or creating new relationships. Arguably, all of these are, in fact, more interesting than if they'd simply picked the lock and gone through the door. With that being said, it's equally true that success should be meaningful, interesting, or both. This usually takes care of itself, though, because players rarely try to do something unless they want to see it happen. Success is still good. A trap you can fall into here is thinking, well, if failure is better, then I should just force everything to be failure. There's a long discussion about all the problems this could create, but the short version is this. Success is also important if for no other reason than the players will become increasingly frustrated if they can never actually accomplish anything. So let the dice fall where they may. And I was listening to some other videos and interviews with Justin. And so also, the idea of fudging dice. So I know that Justin is against it. Let the dice fall where they may. Hey, please do like the stream here. Just another reminder, please do hit the like button on the stream if you're here. I would appreciate it, but also it will let YouTube know that this is a good stream for people like us who enjoy this kind of thing, and will help push the stream out to other people who are subscribed who might not get a notification about it because that's just the way YouTube is, but they might get it if enough people like the stream and let people know that we're doing this in the morning who might like to be here. Let's see. Sable says, okay, good. Okay, good. We can ruffle some feathers tonight. Yeah, so we've got some great topics here. Sable says, I've always been of the opinion that there are so many other numbers the DM can tweak on the fly that fudging dice is unnecessary. Now that you've chosen to make the skill check, you need to identify the skill and set the difficulty of the check. Identifying which skill to use is pretty straightforward. You can usually just scan down the list of skill names and easily spot which best fits the action that the character is attempting. Skills versus abilities. If there's one skill that seems like it could work, just allow the skill to work. Give me an acrobatics or just allow. If there's one or more skill that seems as if it would work, just allow either skill to work. Give me an acrobatics or athletics check. Well, that's the controversy between athletics and acrobatics, right? In D&D. Players can also propose an alternative check, and you can usually just default to yes and let them use their preferred skill. Can I make a history check to identify the ruined fane instead of religion? If you don't see the skill that seems appropriate, check the list of tools to see if the character could be making a tool check instead, using thieves' tools to pick a lock or jeweler's tools to identify rare gemstones. If there's neither a skill nor tool for the check at hand, default to the most appropriate ability check. See, I think I would reverse that. That it seems like that's supposed to be the reverse here. That what you do is you default to an ability check. Because isn't it the case that I think we talked about this, that like in D&D 5e, skills provide bonuses to an ability check. So on every case, you should only be, we talked about this when we were working on the Fated Edge, that like instead of having to do this, so this would be our conversation about skills versus abilities. Instead of having to look at all of the skills and seeing if there are skills that work, you should always be calling for an ability check. What is the appropriate ability check? And then the player, sometimes the game master may have a skill that might modify the ability check, or the player might suggest a skill that could modify the ability check. But that to resolve the actions is an ability check in D&D 5e, right? No case. But if you use the variant rule in D&D for combining skills with different ability scores, which I recommend, I do as well. That seems like something that was supposed to be well developed in D&D 5e, but kind of got thrown in or like taken out and then like added back into that side column, which I recommend because it can give you a lot more flexibility in making rulings. You'll also need to identify which ability score should be used with the skill. For example, you might use intelligence investigation checks to search a room and charisma investigation checks to canvass a neighborhood, or use wisdom animal handling to calm and train your triceratops, and dexterity animal handling when attempting a difficult maneuver when riding a triceratops. Let's see. So talking about tweaking other things, Sable says to hit numbers, HP, AC bonuses, advantages, disadvantage. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. The dice must be inviolate as a neutral, dispassionate, and utterly trustworthy arbiter. I'm sure we'll talk about that tonight. Zero the Blade says, I tend to agree with that. I mean, that's the extreme position, but that's also an argument for always rolling in front of the players. Like when the dice are coming out to adjudicate something, that they are dispassionate and trustworthy. Zero the Blade says, I made a character that had a death wish flaw that made trap rolls fun. Even if I succeeded 99% of the time, I have to act like an idiot made that trap. Like an idiot make that trap. James says, 100% agree. I'm more likely to decrease a hidden DC target than I am to add to a dice roll. Ultimately, the result is the same, but the illusion is what's important. When I DM, I am in service to the illusion. Oh, Robert says, the blade must cut. Once you've identified the skill or tool or ability score, the next step is to identify the difficulty of the check. In D&D, there are a couple of ways of doing this. Look at the difficulty class on the next page and choose one of the descriptions that best matches your understanding of how hard the action would be. Is it easy, hard, very hard? Ask yourself what level of skill someone would need in order to accomplish this task routinely, and assign that the difficulty. Is this something an apprentice could do more or less at will, a professional, a grandmaster? D&D ability scores, D&D skills, D&D common adventuring tools. Difficulty classes, trivial, very easy. See, we've talked about that. Difficulty class of 10. We're basically talking about a 50-50 chance here. A 50-50 chance isn't as easy. I mean, we broke that down a lot when we were looking at Faded Edge and trying to come up with something there. Should something that's easy actually be a 50-50 chance? Now, of course, you have some type of bonus probably to that. And should a task that's easy, so this says level of training professional. So you would need a professional to complete an easy task. And a challenging task needs a master, a hard task, a grandmaster. But we talked about seeming problems with the difficulty classes and dice rolls in general in Dungeons and Dragons. James says, I always roll in front of them. They don't get that choice. I'm going to fudge. It's just not going to be the dice. Andrew says, I took a contrary position. We were there to have fun. If someone was going to go crazy about something, I would massage it. Sometimes I felt like sometimes it felt more like managing people than working a game. Sable says, regardless of your method, GMing is a herd of cats. is like herding cats. Yeah. The third option that can work well in other RPGs is to start with a default difficulty and then adjust it up or down by considering factors that would logically modify that difficulty. In D&D, for example, you might start with DC 12 as your default difficulty and, as a rule of thumb, adjust it up or down by 2 points for every relevant factor. For example, if the PCs are making a wisdom perception check to see if they spotted an elephant stampede in the distance, you might drop the difficulty by 2 because a herd of elephants is quite large and hard to miss, and then another 2 because the stampede is also making a lot of noise, resulting in a difficulty 8 check. If the check, so we're starting at 12 here, if the check is being made in the middle of a thunderstorm, however, you might bump the difficulty back by a couple of points to DC 10. This method can get a little muddled in D&D, however, because some of these factors, like thunderstorms, would be considered situational modifiers that would normally be handled using the advantage-disadvantage system. For now, if you want to keep things simple, you just adjust the difficulty class above to make quick rulings. TSL Frontman says, going back to answering yes or no questions, we often skip over that it's a gap in the player's understanding or certainty. The DM needs to explain context, adjudicate options, and have brevity. We often skip over that it's a gap in the player's understanding or certainty. Going back to answering yes, no questions. Daniel says, while this may not be the case here, I think a 50-50 chance for something easy but under stress makes a little sense. And now, of course, no. You added in here under stress. So we also talked about that. That like in GURPS, the skill that you're trying to roll, your level, is supposed to be basically in some type of adventuring condition. So what is an adventuring condition? We talked about that, or being under stress or something. Because if it's easy and you're not under stress, or it's not adventuring conditions, what do you do? Does a 50-50 flip on an easy task make sense? On the other hand, I'm for generally reducing randomness, not eliminating, but reducing more randomness. So narrating the outcome. To briefly review, after a player, we're running out of time here, but we'll keep going for just a moment longer. To briefly review, after a player has announced their intention to take an action, you'll make a ruling on how the action can be resolved by either defaulting to yes, saying no, and trying to provide the no but, or making a check. If you choose to make the check, then you identify the skill, determine the difficulty, and roll the dice. Now, whether you default to yes or make a check, what you'll be left with is the outcome of that action. You'll know what happened, and to get to the best result to the players, and get to the best, and you get to describe that to the players. What do they see on the other side of the chasm? What do they learn about the parasitic demon? If they killed the orc with their attack, what does that look like? Did they skewer the orc, chop off their head, knock them into a chasm? The truth that is narrating outcome, the truth is that narrating outcome is as much an art as it is science. There's no right answer as to how the orc died or how you describe it to your players. That's something else you get to create, and something truly that nobody else will or can create it exactly the way you do. That's what's so exciting about playing and mastering a role-playing game. With that being said, there are two key questions that need to answer when you're describing an outcome. If the result is success, the questions are, how does the intention succeed? Are there complications, unintended side effects? There don't need to be any, and perhaps often won't be. If the action is a failure, the question is, how does the action fail? What are the consequences of that failure? There should be consequences, as they are what they make their meaningful failure. We'll explore more advanced techniques for framing and describing outcomes later, but for now I can offer a few quick tips to get you started. Outcome factors. Outcome factors: skill, knowledge, power, finesse, environment, time, luck, the target, bystanders. TSL Frontman says unexpected is greater than random. Stray says, I once named all the locks in my game after their maker. It was cool to hear the rogue say, I can't pick it. It's a grit stick. That also means there's a trap. Oh. James says, I'm very excited for this interview later this evening. I am too. Okay, there's what is the Dungeon Master's secret weapon? Okay, so we're almost to step 2, how to run a room. Let's find out what the Dungeon Master's secret weapon is, and then we'll wrap up the stream. So the Dungeon Master's secret weapon. Sounds interesting. Now that you've wrapped your head around making a ruling, now you're ready for the big secret. Being a Dungeon Master is easy. It's much easier than being a player. That might seem absurd right now. Easier? How is that possible? You have to run an entire world. The player can ask you almost anything that and you always need to have an answer ready to go. What if you don't know what should happen next? Everyone else is depending on you. The whole thing will fall apart. But it's easy because you have a secret weapon. Yes, that happens. Now what do you do? As the game master, it can feel as if you're the one who's always being put on the spot. At any time, the player can force you to be creative and on demand. In reality, though, the exact opposite is true because you control the entire world. When a player says they want to do something, you have an immediate creative response to it. Some interesting twist or obstacle or a bit of flavor that leaps into your mind and would enhance and build on what they said. If so, great, do that. So do you have that? If so, do that. But if not, then all you need to say is, yes, that happens. Now what do you do? It's a convenient bit of judo, and it means that the DM is never truly put on the spot because at any time they can simply flip the player's action back and put the player on the spot. It is, in fact, the player, not the DM, who are ultimately responsible for driving the game forward. Ideally, of course, you'll want to dress that up. Yes, that happens. And make it pretty. So rather than this, player, I want to jump over the chasm. Yes, that happens. Now what do? You say something like, player, I want to jump over the chasm. DM, you take a running start and leap, easily clearing the gap and landing on the cobblestones on the far side. Now what do? As you're dressing up your default to yes, you might find 2 corollaries to your secret weapon useful. How are you doing that? And what are you trying to do? If you can't figure out how the yes happens, it's usually because the player hasn't given you enough information about what they're doing. Don't be afraid to ask them. Oh, so this is information going the other way and questions going the other way. Oh, everybody's yes. Okay, I'm glad you are too, Jason. I'm really looking forward to talking to you. So I'm glad you're interested and excited about it as well. Sable says, I want this book, but my stack of physical books to read is already a couple of feet high. I know. I got the same problem. This is Sable says, that is a brilliant tip. It is. I like this a lot. Sable says, wow, I haven't heard it put this way before. We're discovering all kinds of authors who are putting things in different ways and ways that we've never really framed things. Ways that things have never been framed before. So if you can't figure out how yes happens, it's usually because the players haven't given you enough information about what they're doing. So don't be afraid to ask them. Player, I want to find out more information about parasitic demons. DM, how are you doing that? Player, maybe I could do some research at the local library. DM, you can do that. What information are you looking for exactly? Player, I'd love to know how we can detect them. DM, sure. You find a book of lore written by a scholar named Sigurthia. He reports that parasitic demons can be revealed by splashing holy water on their host. So no matter what happens as you work and play your way through the rest of the book, if you're ever feeling lost, adrift, or overwhelmed, just remember your secret weapon. All right. So then this comes to step 2, how to run a room. We've been going for about an hour and a half, so I'm going to have to wrap up here in just a moment. So once again, so this book is So You Want to Be a Game Master by Justin Alexander, the Alexandrian, here on YouTube. So let me take this down. Let me pull up some links. So if you're just coming in, well, first of all, if you're just coming in, please do like the stream. That would be huge. And this would push this out. If you enjoyed it, please help push this out to other people who the algorithm might not have shown the stream to. So this book can be pre-ordered right now at your friendly local gaming store, but also on Amazon. So Amazon linked the book right here. I'll put that in the comments. Oh, let me also drop this link. There are other links as well. I'll drop them all, but in the Discord server, here's the book on Amazon. Right there. Oh, I didn't post. There we go. So that's in the, come on, send. That's in the Discord server, as well as the Amazon link just came right there. So check that out, or go to your friendly local gaming store. Also, be sure to come over to the Alexandrian on YouTube. There's the Alexandrian blog as well, but we're all here on YouTube right now. So visit on the Alexandrian on YouTube. Click over there. Watch some videos before tonight. If you're not subscribed over there, please go ahead and do that. They've got some fantastic videos. I've been watching a lot of them in preparation for the interview tonight. And then also for the interview itself right here. So here's the link to this. I will be talking with Justin right here tonight at 7 o'clock Central Time, 7 o'clock Central Time on Table Talk. Table Talk with Justin tonight, with Justin Alexander tonight. 7 o'clock Central Time. Right there. Click that link and then also hit the notify me button. That is over on the dedicated Table Talk channel. The dedicated Table Talk channel. So please come over there and hit the subscribe button to the dedicated Table Talk channel. We've been streaming over there Tuesday and Thursday nights and having great conversations with all kinds of people. So that's what's going on. Big day today. Let's see. And do check out the Ravenkeep online store. Oh, I don't have, where's my, one of the, do I have my, oh, I don't have one of my mugs. I've got the other mug sitting here this morning. But yes, thank you, Stray. All right. Well, please hit the like button. If you have anything that we should talk about tonight, talking with the author of this morning's grind. Well, that was the point. So I wanted to be sure that we talked about the book on the morning grind so that we could, so that we all had a preview of it and understood what it was before we go to Table Talk tonight. So, all right, everybody, I have really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for being here. And if you're watching on replay, thank you so much for watching on replay as well. Had a great conversation. We're gonna have a fantastic conversation tonight. Sorry, I was sick. sorry, my voice was sick and gravelly because I'm sick. Maybe I'll be cleared up by tonight. Thank you for hanging with me on that side of things. All right, everybody, go be creative, be constructive, and grind on. See you tonight.